Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm joined by the one and only caveman himself, Mr. Team Affinity, Marcus Charman.
How are you, mate?
I'm good, but your beard is looking so impeccable and mine is looking like a complete mess. I just had to get makeup in to kind of sort things out, but
this is more down to filters than anything else.
I know. I think it's more down to just for men, if I'm totally honest with you, mate.
I need a sponsorship. I reckon I've kept him going in COVID.
You know my secret, so and clearly I'm not keeping up on track of these things. But hey ho, it's we've had a rough year.
Mate, it's been a bit different, hasn't it?
It has. Thank you very much for joining me today, mate. Marcus and myself have been friends for a long time. Trained together on the weekend, which was awesome to have you down. And we were just talking, like mates do, about competitions coming up. And obviously this weekend we have Europe's Strongest Man. And I thought, sod it, why don't we get you on? And I know you can have a good talk. So
yeah,
who better than yourself to talk about this weekend's Europe's Strongest Man? We may even talk a bit about the feats of strength. I will be time dependent because Marcus and me, when we get going, can definitely talk.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm keeping an eye on the thing in the corner, so we'll be good.
I'm loving this setup that you got going behind you. It looks brilliant.
Well, this is work, so that's kind of part and parcel of it. So it is part of what you do. So alter ego behind me, keeping me honest.
He's looking good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Beauty and the Beast there, is it?
It's all part of the same thing. So I reckon that's just more with me without a coffee in the morning. So no, I'm looking forward to the fact that we actually have competition on at last. I know we've had the feats of strength, which has been, it has been bloody magnificent because it's given us something to sort of focus on, something to talk about, probably for a lot of athletes as well, to kind of keep you a little bit honest. Because having something to train for is perfect. Is there a little in the background running wild?
That is the cat. Jesus, cat.
Is that the cat?
Well, we won't repeat what I said about the cat before.
Yeah, off cat.
I can't tell you how many of these chats I've done now. She's never made a noise like that in the background.
Well, there you go, mate.
She's excited. She's excited to see you.
I draw it all in.
But yes, we have Europe's Strongest Man this weekend. Bit of controversy with obviously the lineup not being the most European lineup, shall we say, in recent history. Obviously, unfortunately, we have a few people missing, but still a strong lineup and some fantastic athletes that are going to be competing. Some brilliant up and comers. Obviously, Luke Richardson, everyone's talked about. He had a good performance at Britain's earlier this year. Adam Bishop, Britain's Strongest Man.
Yep.
There's, Novakov's meant to be coming over for it. Lalas is making a return. So There's some big names, and we're just going to kind of go through the events together, the athletes, and we're going to come up with a little bit of a prediction each. And I normally get these predictions wrong. Liz is the one that sort of beats me. So I thought, sod getting Liz on. We're going to get Marcus on, and I'm going to get one right for a change.
Mine's going to be wildly wrong because I get caught between my head and my heart, and I always go with my heart because I think with it, when it comes down to competition, it's always nice to have a little bit of a romantic side because of how competition plays out. I think if we go back to Giants Alive Manchester, if you didn't have a little bit of romance, you'd have never seen Ben Brunning coming in to take a second. So you have to sort of err on that side of it. It is the beauty and chaos theory of what is in Strongman, being consistent, being sort of level throughout a lot of the events. I'm looking forward to this one. I know you said that this is kind of, we're kind of compromised a little bit. We've got COVID rules. But actually, when you look through a few of the names, as we discussed, that maybe are missing, but when you actually look at the pedigree of the athletes we have here, and I know that people have termed it sort of like it's Britain's too, but I also think that's a great credit to the standard of strongman in the UK at the moment. And it's one thing that's been forgotten that we have pushed. The Americans are very jealous of the audiences that we get over in this country, and they look to us to set a standard. And what I would say ahead of this weekend as well is it's testament to exactly how professional our athletes have been over the last sort of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, the growth of the British strength athletes, obviously I've been a big, not to try to blow my own trumpet, but I've been a big part of that in terms of the timeline. When I first got into strongman, unfortunately we would send 5 guys to World's Strongest Man and 5 guys would come bottom of their group as a whole. And that's, not to take anything away from those guys. They set, the standard back then, but the standard has improved. And then, from when I started, we had guys like Ollie Thompson originally.
Yep.
He was the man to beat when I first started. And actually, Mark Felix and Terry Hollands are two of the guys we're going to talk about today.
Yep.
And then, I came along, and Jimmy Marku came along, Mark Westerby came along. And then we got the likes of Graham Hicks, Adam Bishop, the Stoltmans. And we've got so many good athletes. Eddie Hall, how can I forget the beast? Eddie went on to
be fair, though, it is that what I would class as that holy sort of trinity of British athletes, which was yourself, Mark, and Terry. And when you look at the points, that you guys have accumulated, at both Worlds and Europes, and it's ridiculous amount of points.
You're looking at almost 40 World's Strongest Man appearances between the three of us, which is quite crazy. And
I'm pretty sure if you went through the list of competitors ahead of this weekend, obviously it includes two of them, but I guarantee that a majority of those lads competing would have looked to that trinity to say, look, that's the standard, that's where I want to be.
Well, definitely so, and these younger guys have taken it on to another level, which is great to see, and that's exactly what we want. We want
it's the evolution of the sport.
Yeah, and now we have, I'd say, it's hard to put a number on it, but we've got 20 guys in England that are all exceptionally high class. There's obviously the names that are known, but there's a lot of guys chomping at the bit to kind of get that next spot. And a few of them have been given an opportunity this weekend. Yeah. And it's going to be great to see. Anyway, let's go through the list. Have you got the list there, or do you want me to read it out to you?
Read it out.
So we'll go through the list and then we'll go through the events, okay? Yeah. First man, I want to get your opinion on current Britain's strongest man, Adam Bishop.
Again, that word evolution. Bish is a guy's very similar to Hixi in the through the 105 ranks. Whether it was just over eager or some misfortune at times, every time you saw Bish sort of burst on, you're just waiting for him just to get to that next step, and then there was catastrophe. There was a little disaster. There was a stumble. There was a trip, and then there's injury. But the one thing that guy's done is just chip away. If you're looking for the word professional to be aligned to an athlete, he's your boy. What he's done and how he's gone about his business has been fantastic. He certainly earned his accolade of Britain's strongest man. I know that there's probably times before he felt he's in the mix, but I've always said that getting close is the precursor. That failure is the precursor to being a successful champion. Now he's got that title. And let's be fair, you haven't seen the big song and dance about it. He's got the title. I think it's just a case of, I've earned that, I want more. And I think you'll sort of see that. I'm not entirely sure this competition is like, when you look through the events, I don't think this is necessarily something he probably looked at and just went, yay, this is, it's made for me. But what I think you'll get out of him, as always, you'll get an exceptionally dialed in and a professional athlete. And the one thing he has done, especially through lockdown as well, and since he's won that title, is, by Christ, he's strong.
He's put on some serious beef. Yeah. He's always been a good deadlifter, but the pressing power seems to be coming up. The squatting power, he just looks big. He's the biggest I've ever seen him.
Yeah, and it's a case of, as you know, it's been done over a period of time. So hopefully there's no losing too much of what your previous, sort of armory would be in terms of his mobility and his speed. I think he's still quick. The only thing that I've seen throughout the years, and you pray that it's not the case, is sometimes there's just been a little stutter and he seems not to be able to leave it behind. Sometimes it affects the next event. I hope that that winning mentality and actually accomplishing something by taking a title has just put that to bed.
I always see Adam as one of these athletes that needs good prep for competitions. He's not like, there's certain athletes I look at that are just gifted, and I wouldn't put Adam in that bracket. No. He's a grafter. He's a hard worker. He's
earned it.
Yeah, he's methodical. He really sets out a strategic plan to peak at a certain time. And if he's had plenty of time to focus, he comes in good shape. And this is exactly what he's had. He's not been working in his normal job on a day-to-day basis. He's been able to spend that time focusing on training. He's looking strong. With Adam, he doesn't leave any stone unturned. He's going to be practicing the events to almost, perfection. He's not going to, leave things to chance. And he's going to come in well prepared.
Yeah.
With that extra size, like you spoke about, that strength, he's always going to be, one of the danger men, and he's going to be arguably one of the favourites.
Yeah, I think that's it. The word that you use there is sometimes what I can obviously, I think you can see sometimes that is a hindrance to some people when you strive for perfection. Because obviously if you don't meet your own standards, and sometimes, as we know, chaos theory kicks in, it can prey on your mind, and it's just being able to be able to park that and look proactively to what comes next rather than linger on what's been.
Indeed. Anyway, next man on the list is Luke Stoltman, who has had an incredible year or two. The development of Luke Stoltman, obviously everyone talks about Tom, but Luke has kind of really shone the last couple of years, and he's kind of just come into his own. Yeah,
the bit that you said there as well is everyone talks about Tom. I think that was probably Luke's greatest downfall for a couple of years, in that he was setting his brother up for the stage when not realising that he was purpose-built and made for it. For all the names that you're going to mention, and I've stated this both outwardly and to Luke himself in the last 18 months, is that by application, by what he's done accumulatively over a number of years now, he is in a position of where I think that he is a title winner. He has great experience. He has a fantastic mentality towards, you never see him getting too hyped. Certainly maybe post-event, when he's there with his brother, which
rips the top off.
Oh, it's fantastic. Housewife's favourite, and he's all over the place. But that's brilliant to see because, again, it's been earned. But I think he started to realise probably a couple of years ago that, you know what, if I don't give this a go now, I'm maybe going to kick myself. And the application, again, what you've seen from him, you look at the facility that those guys have put together, again, with things like diet and nutrition, no stone left unturned. And he just, to me, doesn't really have a weakness. He is just, if you're picking your Pro Evolution soccer player from back in the day, there's a few massive spikes, but in that pentagon, there are no flaws. But it's his comfort level at the big stage, which I think makes him one of the more dangerous athletes on the circuit, because he thrives.
He just takes it in his stride. You can see he doesn't let the pressure get to him. He's very confident without being kind of over the top and arrogant with it. And like you say, he doesn't really have any big weaknesses anymore.
No. And especially going to this one, there's no max deadlift. It is a rep event. It's a fixed, it's an axle bar as well. And because of the way that he pulls and the manner in which he pulls, I think it actually suits him better than probably an ollie bar. And just because he can just be direct, he can just use that big back and those big legs.
Yeah, indeed. We'll talk more about Luke in a sec when we get to the events. But next up, we got Hixi. Graham Hicks, the monstrously strong Graham Hicks right now. You see him in his training. I mean, everyone talks about his log, but man, he's strong at everything these days.
Yeah, again, going back to the axle, this is the only thing that he trains deadlift on at the moment. I already pulled, 410 double on an axle recently and honestly made it look easy, which is mind-blowing. The only thing you'd probably say is because his focus has been around that upper tier, that completely new benchmark for log. I know that everyone's talking about a world record, but I think when you look at Graham and the way that he goes about things, I think he's looking far beyond that. I think he's looking at sending a little bit of a message. Maybe not this time round, just taking the record would be good. But I think what's in his head is I think he's let the lid off for once and realised, because he's not always been outwardly the most positive character.
What are you saying about Hixi?
we've all had the conversations at times, and it's just like, morning, but the guy that he is now, I truly think he started to understand and believe, and it's sunk in. Do you know what? You are an elite, and what you do and how you do it is beyond reproach right now.
When it comes
phenomenal.
To that static power, that's Hixi. I mean, he's good. He's a great strongman.
Yeah.
When it comes to lifting heavy weights, he is absolutely peak world-class level. There's not many people. He could be one of the absolute. I mean, he could be the strongest man on the planet when it comes to squatting, bench, deadlift, and overhead pressing. You know,
well, his recent, his first powerlifting meet at Big Dogs, I think, showcased that. This is a guy that said, I made a few mistakes and I missed this and I missed that, and he totals 1100, and it's just wow. And that's almost like a dry run. You know, by the time he's 3 comps deep, he's probably going to be, a few % on top, and it's just, mind blowing. But no, the only thing is, obviously, I think recently he got his invite for Worlds. Strongman as a whole hasn't been his focus. It's been specific things. So whether he's going to be dialed in for this or not, I maybe don't think so.
Do you think he's going to focus solely on the log then, and then just use it as a training session, or is he coming to win?
I think sensible. Oh, he's an athlete. He's a competitor. This is a guy. When we all talk about strongman as well, and you get all those messages coming in from people, and they say, "Oh, am I too small to be a strongman? Am I, too short to be a strongman?" Hixi was a 105, and you look at those photos, and there's a guy that you sort of see, and you cannot put the two together now. And he's comfortably, and I mean comfortably, because he walks around brilliantly at it, at over 155 kilos.
Yeah.
At 5'10".
I think he's even heavier than that from speaking to him recently.
Yeah.
I think he's been over 160.
Wow.
And yeah, he's.
Well, you know how that feels.
Oh yeah.
And you're a bit taller than he is, so yeah. So, but no, it's. I think professionally, you have to look at it and say, right, okay, what can I achieve from this? Sensibly, that has to kick in and just say, right, okay, what is best for me? And the best thing, I think, if Graham, if I was in Graham's corner, is, right, go out and set a standard. Get a dry run in for what you want to do for the future, which is arguably the greatest presser that the planet's seen, beyond doubt. And then use this as a tool ahead of Worlds. I know that any athlete and competitor and even promoter probably look at it and sort of a bit of shrug of the shoulders. But the realism is that if you are not training the events a certain period out, you have to be realistic. So I think you set your stall out to capitalise on what you're good at. Yeah,
I think Hixi's going to go in there with the focus on the log. But knowing Hixi as well, you sort of, all of us as well, we're very competitive, man. Yeah. You get in that environment, you're like, all right,
I'll have a go.
I can do this. And I think Hixi will come into it, and I'm just focused on the log, and then I think he'll have a good start, surprise himself, and then he'll get
be in that top 4, and it will just be with 2 events to go.
Next man on the list, I know this is another favourite of yours, Mr. Terry Hollands, a legend himself. How long has he been doing this stuff for now? He's, actually, let's talk about the next 2 men, because we've got Terry and Mark Felix.
Yeah.
We talk about, real legends of the sport, guys that have done it for so many years, still going strong. I mean, look, I'm sat here watching and enjoying. Mark Felix is 17 years older than me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's pretty crazy.
I know. And you and I complain about being old. No, the 2 of them are, there's a term, and I use the term fabric. They're part of the fabric of strongman. And, wherever you go, people know who they are within the sport. There is no introduction for them. They are the sport. But it's when you're looking for, and you get the messages in again about advice about what to be as a strongman and how to go about your business. Honestly, you've got people living it still to this day. And what do? They love it. That is the only reason they're doing what they do. For no other reason. It's not about the endorsements. It's not about the comp. It's not about this. It's not about that. They just enjoy what they do. And if you want to see how far passion gets you, aligned to a brilliant work ethic and some talent, that's where it gets you. It gets you decades of World's Strongest Man appearances, and it gets you titles.
Oh yeah, I mean, both of them have been, both of them have won plenty of titles. Both of them have broken world records. They don't have anything to prove anymore.
No. And even though Terry will always think that, because that's his natural demeanour sometimes, and his standards are high, and we've seen him reinvent himself, and I've seen the flack that he's taken, when he is finishing the 7th and the 8th positions and stuff, and you're actually looking at it, and it's like, okay, it looks like he's going backwards, and then all of a sudden he decides to do a bodybuilding show. He looks kind of like the Terminator should have looked.
Yeah, he looked amazing.
And then he comes back, and do you know what? There were glimpses of all of a sudden there's progression. And he's within weeks of finishing a competition, a bodybuilding competition, he's probably outperformed his last comp.
Terry's another one as well. He's very realistic about his chances. He doesn't kind of sit there saying, "Oh, I'm going to come and win Europe's Strongest Man." He's got an eye on getting to another. He wants that 10th World's Strongest Man final. Yeah. That's his big goal right now. And you kind of know with Terry, that's where he'll be looking to peak.
Yeah.
I think he's going to use this as a stepping stone, see where he's at, go back to the drawing board, see what he needs to improve on. And, this is no disrespect to Terry, but he's never been the best at the one-day shows. Where he excels at is World's Strongest Man.
Yeah.
The guy has been in 9 finals. He's competed at World's Strongest Man umpteen times. Yeah. He's won events at World's Strongest Man many times. That's where he brings his best. And, twice on the podium at Worlds is a hell of an achievement on its own.
And it's not a bad era as well. When you look who he stood left and right of, sometimes it's like, Jesus, that is by its own admission, they are great. Yeah. They're the guys that you look at and just say, right, that's the Hall of Famers. But Terry, for his appearances and what he's done, and his position, the fact that I don't think he was touchable on any form of pull for God knows how long, as much as you were with things like yokes and frames. It's like he's a Hall of Famer himself.
Yeah, when it comes to vehicle pulls, he's
legend.
Best of all time. You can have him up there.
Yeah,
as one of the absolute best of all time on that event.
But I think to see those two there, and we know what we've got coming in as well in terms of the younger element. Having those boys around is invaluable for the progression of the sport, purely for the fact that both of them, seeing Mark and Terry at things like OSG passing on advice with a smile, that's where their value now has gone stratospheric.
He just seems to enjoy it now. And Mark as well. Mark's he's got a smile on his face when he's competing. Yeah. He's been rejuvenated by these world records. He's been hitting on the Hercules hold. Yeah. He's qualified legitimately for World's Strongest Man by placing top 3 in the North American Open.
Yep.
Mid-50s and placing top 3 in international strongman contests.
Yeah,
it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, and when you actually look at that comp, when you look at all those younger American athletes as well, they're all a year wiser. They're all a year hungrier from maybe missing out before. And there's some cracking athletes in there. Guys that have been at Worlds, guys that are hungry to go back, and ones that are wanting to prove a point. And there's Mark in the mix, picking up a podium.
And do you know what? One of the reasons both of them do so well still, even though they're I'll say this, I think both of them are past their best. And I can say that I've competed against them both. I know how good they were at their best.
Yeah.
But because they've got that older head on them, they stay calm, they stay relaxed. They don't make the stupid mistakes.
Yeah.
And they end up beating a lot of these youngsters that are trying to kind of, nip at their toes, and they end up messing up. Terry and Mark will be right there to capitalize if any of these youngsters do make a mistake.
Isn't that the evolution, though, of a sportsman? It's just that you at your physical best probably aren't mentally at your best.
Yeah.
So what you can do is the body starts to deteriorate as you make up for it with nous. We'd all love that opportunity to go back to some of the previous sports and combine the two and be, to have the sort of awareness that you have at the latter stages of maybe being a footballer and the body to go along with it. But it's just not the case. But what they've been able to do is, as you say, is reinvent, learn as they go along and apply it. And that's where so many people, that's why we're only talking about 2 probably out of the world. And the other guy that really falls into that category in a world status really at the moment is probably someone like Brian Shaw.
Yeah,
it's the fact that physically he might have been past his best. He's not the younger guy, but he is diligent. He's probably the most detailed.
Dangerous.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that's where these guys come into their own.
Yeah, definitely. Next man on the list, a new guy for us to talk about, Gav Bilton. Yep. Absolute monster of a man.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
This guy, he is a big boy. I was talking to him the other day, and he's put on 10 stone in 2.5 years. 10 stone is like, what's that, like 70 kilos?
Well, he was in Britain's novice finals with me. And in that time, and granted, I haven't concentrated on purely just eating, but I've put on 1.5 stone. And it almost killed me at one point trying to walk to the car with calf cramps. And this guy's put on 10. He's got a phenomenal frame. He is a proper athlete. You look at his pedigree in terms of an exceptional rugby player. He's been a very, very good standard of boxer within the army as well. So he has that competitive mindset. Call it what it is at the moment. He's a fledgling.
Yeah.
But he's a fledgling 30-stone unit of a boy, which at the moment he hasn't got a cap on him. There's no lid. So
I sat talking to him the other night, and his shoulders just filled the screen out. He's just huge, and you see the improvement in his static strength over the last year or so.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. The only question mark I have over him is going to be regarding his fitness.
It's going to be the weight.
Yeah,
because it's going to take. It takes the acclimatization point, of which he has to go through this to understand that.
Of course, and someone who went through that was Thor.
Yep.
Thor put on a huge amount of weight in a short time, and it took him a little bit of time to sort of get used to being in that frame. But he's someone that could be on that kind of level. He's not there yet.
Yeah.
He's got, he's still a bit of a novice in some respects.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the potential there is crazy, and he seems very confident. You talk to him, he really feels focused that he can do well. And I'm looking forward. It's hard to predict because I just haven't seen him compete since last year. And guys like that can make great progress.
Yeah.
So this guy, he could go in and shock everyone. He may go in and flump. It's really hard he's a hard one to predict. But I think
it's nice that he's got 2 days. I think that will do him some favours. I think if you try to compress him into a normal giant show with TV time constraints, I think that you're not going to get the best out of him purely for the fact that you're going to just see him, burn out. But that we've seen the same with amazing names like you mentioned Thor, but you and I have been around when we've seen Constantine, where he come in ridiculously heavy, and the first thing he said is, apart from "I am fat," he struggled to actually walk out to the event.
That was such a good line. We were at the World Team Championships, and I just looked at Constantine.
You put on some weight, son.
Yeah, I was like, "How are you feeling?" He just looks at us and goes, "Fat."
but that's the thing, is it's you're making yourself fit for purpose, and at the moment I think so many people have got this. If you've got the frame, how big can you be? I think the one thing with Gav is that he's genuinely decided that, do you know what, I'm just going to lift heavy, eat big, and just plow on. And I don't think it's necessarily been a complete purpose thing to just turn into this absolute unit. It's just that it's kind of happened. So he has got time on his side. He's a young lad still, but it will be interesting to see how you evolve mentally post a competition when people are honed. Because that you're going to get a few lads in here which are just, okay, this is kind of the best I can do with the prep that I've got. And if you're way behind them in your fitness levels and you are a mile away from the guys that are honed and comp ready, you don't have to be told anymore. Yeah. And that's always an important thing. To be told all the time gets a little old, regardless of the experience, regardless of the advice. I think to be on the receiving end of it is always the punctuation mark that just makes you go, right, okay, I need to change what I'm doing here. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch him. Like I said, I can't predict how Gav will do. It's been it's not like some of the older guys that what kind of shape they're going to come in. But
the one thing you can say, he will leave everything out there.
He will. And I think win, lose or draw, he's going to take a lot from it. He's going to real big experience for him. Competing alongside some of those names can only be good. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we have Vitalij Lalas, one of the absolute greats of strongman.
Yeah.
Arnold's Strongest Man, 2012. He was second, or 2013, sorry. He was second at World Strongest Man, 2012, to the great Zydrunas Savickas. He's had an incredible career. Nice to see him back.
If you can't be up for a comp when that name comes up, Lalas, then there's something wrong with you. That is the professor. That's a guy that is, by his own standards, said if you want to be good at strongman, you've got to be smart. And so he is a smart man. He's
very smart, and I had him on the show not so long ago. Really enjoyed talking to him. Just like you said, he's just a funny, cool, easy guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Him and me were talking like two has-beens, enjoying talking about the new guys. And now here he is.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on here, buddy? We were talking about watching these guys, and here you are back in again.
Can't help himself.
I'm happy to see it. I love Lalas. I think he's an incredible strong man. hard to predict again, because what kind of shape's he in? Has he had enough time to get in shape? With Lalas, he's strong. In his prime, unbelievably strong and an extremely good all-round athlete.
Yeah.
And this contest has 8 events. 8 events, if you're a good all-rounder, is ideal, because you just keep picking up points. Whereas 5 events, there's guys that can be exceptional in a few events and they can run away with it. But 8 events, you have nowhere to hide. And he's the kind of guy, and we'll look at the events in a minute, like I said, but he doesn't have a weakness. He can press, he can deadlift, he can throw, he can move, he can do stones, he can do it all.
The only thing that you could say is a weakness right now is ring rust. Just for the fact he hasn't competed at a high level for such a long time. And I think when you go back to certain Giants Live, I think he made a stones mistake, and whereas before
in Manchester, he was actually doing pretty well, and then messed up on the Atlas stones, which is unusual for him.
Exactly, that's the only thing. But again, I think this will be a case of more of not just like an Indian summer. I don't think he's going to put his name up if he doesn't think he's going to be competitive.
Yeah.
But when you've got 8 events across the 2 days, the diversity of them. And I love watching his training, because whilst you've got some really sort of standardized, compound lifts, you've got some funky stuff in there where he's always thinking, always evolving. He's worked around niggles and injuries. But the one thing you're never, ever going to be able to, get beyond is the fact that guy has got some savage experience. He knows how to win.
Yeah.
And he knows how to win big. That makes you dangerous in your own right.
Yeah, he's a very confident man as well.
Yeah.
He knows his abilities. He's been there and done it many, many times.
He'll beat 3 people just by looking at them.
Yeah.
In this lineup. If you stood there going into the thing and you just see this absolute wardrobe of a man, and he just looks across, a little smile. He's like, "Oh, I'm done."
And he's very good at all the mind games as well. He'll sit there pretending like he's Mr. Nice Guy. He knows what he's doing. He's getting in their heads, and he's very good at it. And he's, like I said, he'll back it up with tremendous strength, speed, determination. He's got it all. It just depends for me. If he's in shape, I can see him winning. If he's not, has it been enough time? Time will tell. It's what's making this year interesting. We haven't seen guys compete. We don't know what kind of shape people are in. It's great seeing training videos, but it's not until that whistle goes and it's the battle of the field where we really know who's...
I think the carrot for a lot of these guys, and do we know if there's a spot at Worlds?
Well, top 3 at Giants Live is always a qualifier for Worlds. The only issue is I don't know if this is going to be for this year or next year. I don't know.
If it's this year, I would look at probably 3 or 4 of those guys that are maybe on the periphery, and the likes of Vitalis Lalas. That if you dangle that carrot and he knows statistically how to sort of get the points, you'll watch him fly.
Definitely. Next man on the list. And this guy's had an incredible couple of years. Wasn't known a few years back, only young. Alexey Novakov.
Yeah, just a machine.
What a meteoric rise that guy's had. And he's competed in everything. Yeah. I think the time off will hopefully have been good for him. I've heard rumours that he's got a bit of injury issues that he's overcoming. But man, that guy's got balls. He's gonna give it everything on every single event. He's gonna go like a bull in a china shop. And that sometimes is his strength, and it's sometimes his downfall as well. Yeah. I think if he hits it right, he's going to excel. Sometimes he can just go a bit too crazy, and he suddenly starts making mistakes. But he's always dangerous.
Yeah, I think that's the guy that you look at, and he's forging himself through just being in the fire all the time. Yeah, that's how he's gone about his trade. When you're looking, I remember coming into one particular sport very late. I didn't start a certain sport until I was 30, and I remember the guy saying to me, "You're going to have to cram 10 years into 2." So I played 60 games a year for the next 5 years and got myself to a very good level. I see him doing the same thing. The only difference is this is Strongman. You can be a young lad, that's great, but even now when the breather comes in, when you've put your body under so much stress for a prolonged period of time, you are creating your own painkillers. You are dealing with how you cope, not exist anymore. And even in a rest period, that's when you know how much you've put yourself through the fire, because you're going, actually, I've got a lot of problems and I'm hurting. And it takes a long time, and you have to get back in to sort of evaluate where you're at. What I love about this kid more than anything else, and he is a kid, he's only a young man, early 20s.
Yeah, what's he, 23, 24, something like that?
He's diminutive. He walks into a room. He's not the biggest guy in there,
No,
apart from his forearms, which are like thighs.
You line up all these guys. He's not the guy you look at and pick out as the winner.
No.
But he's an incredible competitor.
Yeah, because if all of a sudden the zombie apocalypse kicks off and there's people sort of walking in and there's like, zombie bears, I'm throwing him at the front of the queue because he's just going to start launching them around for fun and smiling while he does it. He's just got that brilliant mentality to getting the job done. It doesn't think it's going to be hard. It doesn't think it's going to be heavy. It just needs to be done. And that's what he does. He's all business when he gets out there. Very much like Mateus, when you see these guys kick off and they're throwing a 102 kilo dumbbell over their head and they get to 9 or 10 reps and it's like, damn it. And it's like, you're 15% better than the rest of the top 1% in the world at this, but you're annoyed because you made one little error, because you know what's going to happen. You might let that other dude in. And that's where Alexey comes in. Yeah, he's what you get from him, it's not necessarily a flip of a coin. It's just the one thing you can say again is that if this kid is anywhere near on song, you've got to be near perfect to beat him.
No, 100%. He's definitely going to be a contender. Next man, someone you know very well, Aaron Page.
Yep. Yeah, I'm pleased to see this. I'm pleased to see Aaron on this sort of level. We know he's trained so hard for it, and I think he's found himself in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, because, he has been, anyone who thinks that sort of working with like a mate who's a sponsor and all that sort of stuff is an easy thing. If anyone has taken the bollockins, it's Aaron. To be on the receiving end of your mate saying, look, you're going to get binned off soon if you don't start turning potential into results because you talk a good game, but you haven't delivered. To have those sort of conversations at times when it's your friend is the hardest thing in the world. But what I loved about the last time we sort of chatted ahead of Britain's is he walked out, and it wasn't just cock and ball swagger this time. It was really, do you know what, I want to do this?
Yeah.
And he put in, listen, it's going to take a little bit of time to get yourself to the point of being, aerobically fit when it's not your thing. But the way he walked through the log medley was beautiful, because he entertained, but he made sure the first thing happened. He was dialed in on everyone. We've seen him Viper stuff before, make early mistakes, and it's cost him energy. Whereas now it was about getting the end result, getting that last one up, and then I can entertain the crowd. He's got the priorities right. And what's he going to do here? It's still a mixed bag, but when you look, like we've spoken before, when you look at what he's done, when you've put him in a good competition at Arnold's, he shows real promise. He shows real glimpses of, do you know what? This is the stage that I deserve to be at.
I was going to say, I mean, he performed at the Arnold's Barcelona.
Yes.
Was it last year? I think it was. Might be wrong. Might be the year before. I really can't remember now with the lockdown.
Yeah, I think it was last year, yeah.
I think it was, yeah. And he performed brilliantly.
Yeah,
he
was very good competition.
He was
as well.
beating Brian Shaw on certain events. He was placing well in the contest. He's an exceptional log lifter. His deadlift is world class now. He's getting better and better at all the events. Like you say, he walks around with this confidence now, whereas before, I think he was trying to prove himself.
Yeah.
Now he's sort of in that position where he knows he's good.
Yeah.
And he knows he doesn't have to. He came to train with me before Britain's last year.
Yeah.
And it was great having him to train with. But he would always try and just beat me on everything we did in training.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
Now's not the time.
Yeah. And when we competed, I actually beat him on every event.
Yeah.
But this year, he seems like he's got that confidence now, and he's learnt from that, and he's sticking to his plan. He's looking confident when he competes. His performance at Britain's was exceptionally good.
Yes.
Really proved he's world class.
Yeah, a little luck. He's immediately into world spot, for Britain's. So
well, he performed well. He's, like I said, he's dangerous. He's the current British record holder. There's a bit of current British record holder on the log lift.
Yeah,
a little bit of controversy with that lift. I was there when he did it, and I honestly believe he can get the lift perfectly clean.
Yeah,
I don't believe it should have been given. It was it's one of those situations where the referee said down, so you'd be a fool to not put it down.
Yeah.
It's
you're in the hands of the ref, so
exactly. And this isn't a knock at the ref, but it just refs in general. It's very easy for us as fans to look at lifts and say, we'll sit here and criticize the athlete. But if the referee says good lift, it's on the referee, not the athlete.
On his angle in real time, not the 7th time you've popped it, seen it come up from a different angle on Insta. Yeah. That's the thing. So,
and he is an exceptional log lifter, and I certainly believe if he was given the chance to do it again, he would have locked it out perfectly and held it there. It's just it was a bit of a controversy when it came to being on the day. Shame really, because I think, like I said, I think he could have got it legitimately clean as well. But we all make mistakes. We've all been in that position where we don't always get the call right. And I think he can do very well in this show. I think he's hungry. He hasn't got that spot of world's strongest man yet that I know he really wants.
Yeah.
This is going to be a chance to prove he should have been there. So he's going to be hungry. He's going to come in good shape. He's got great events. I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah. A bit of swagger goes a long way as well.
It does. Next man, your favorite, Paro Dwyer.
Yeah.
I'm kind of calling everyone your favorite, but this guy, you got a soft spot for this boy.
I have. I met Pa, I think 3 years ago when you and I went to UK's.
Thanks for that. Pa, for those that don't know, beat me at that UK's.
Yeah.
No, he's a good lad, Pa is. He's improved so much, to be fair to him.
But we sat there, a few bites to eat and stuff like that, and Pa's the jester. Pa's the he is the clown.
Yeah.
But I also stood shoulder to shoulder with him when he lost the title, and he was nowhere near. Truth be told, he was well beaten on a couple of events, and I think if you'd have asked him prior to it, had he prepped well, I think he'd have probably said, "Yeah, I've done well." But the gap and the gulf between one person that was beyond hungry, and the other person which was beyond talented and strong, was vast. As I said earlier, I think that sometimes failure is a precursor to see what people have got, and it unlocks something in you. I know other strong men, I know other people have seen that potential within Pa. It is different when you're sort of in a place where there's only 2 or 3 of you in the entire country that do what you do. But he's been working with Graham Hicks. Hixi sees a huge amount in Pa that needs to be unlocked, and he's starting to do it. The only thing is that it's in a gym. The bit like the romantic side of looking at this way with the rose tinted specs is just that having seen someone on a high and a low, and you see a little bit of their soul, you see a bit of their true character, and whilst we see the jester at times, there's a bit of a killer to come out of him, and I think you'll start to see that now.
I think we've already seen it to a certain degree. Excuse me. He performs exceptionally well. He's got certain events he's very, very good at.
Yes.
He still, in my opinion, has a couple of weaknesses as well at that higher level.
Yes.
And he performed really well at the Brits, exceptionally well on a few events, particularly the Conan Circle. He was unbelievable at that. And, he's had good, solid results in shows over the last 3 to 4 years. And he's making that steady progress. He's not one of these guys that just blasted onto the scene and surprised everyone. He's an Adam Bishop. He's every year plugging away, getting better and better. He's
an Adam Bishop that, wears a funny hat with like a little propeller on it, and puts sort of blue hand stain on when he goes to shake your hand. He's a great bloke to be around, and that's that.
He's always fun. Yeah, a contest. You just know you can joke about and have a laugh, but when it comes to the events, he switches on.
Yeah. And it's just, when you look at, as I say, we go through the events in a little bit, but when you look at some of them where they're testing, they're going to hurt you. And it's whether you can hang in or not and tell it to go, tell it to sort of leave you alone. I think having that mentality, having that sort of more jovial side, which can switch between the two, that control, as I say, you look at how he hung on the Conan's wheel, never did it before in comp. That wasn't technique. That was just pure want. Yeah. And I think when it comes to a few of those, okay, we're going to see him lose a few points here and there, I think, but there's going to be a few he's going to shock them.
I think the static events, he's still not quite, he's not bad by any means. He's a decent deadlifter. His log is okay.
It's getting there, isn't it?
But his conditioning and his fitness and his moving and those type of events, he's really good at. Yeah. And I think with this, again, longer competition, the fitness will come into play.
Yeah.
And being able to stay relaxed between events as well is another kind of strong attribute to have. There's certain guys that will just burn themselves out, just sitting there getting nervous. He won't really do that. He'll focus on the event, and then he'll just be joking and laughing behind the scenes.
That ability to be able to turn it off and turn it on is an event win in itself.
Definitely. Last man on our list, and this guy, everyone's been talking about him for the last couple of years. Came from powerlifting. He is the future Luke Richardson. Incredible, gifted athlete, hardworking, getting better and better at a rapid pace.
Yep.
Is he good enough to win this show?
Yeah. It's
easy as that.
Just purely for the fact that I think by the time he's done, if he has that run of where he's saved from major life-changing injury, what you'll see is someone that can surpass everyone. He'll be the strongest human being that's ever walked this planet.
You think?
Yeah.
Big claims.
Yeah. And I know what it comes with. I know it comes with that whole thing of who you look at and what's gone before. But what I would say is I'm not an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched lots and lots of people do it. I've got excited about lots of people's talent and potential. But it always comes down to just looking and saying, oh, yeah, okay, there's a few flaws here. No, there just isn't. Because when you know how... And it's really difficult when you have other athletes eyeball you and say, look, I work diligently. I put the time in. I put the effort in. I was only around this kid for 2-3 shows, a few training sessions, but I got to see in his eyes firsthand on a medley when everyone slowed and he got faster. Mm-hmm. We're watching world-class people die a death and he finds another gear. And what this lad has isn't something that you can put into a training session. There is something within him that drives him like... I've only ever seen it in 2 other people in other sports, and both of them are world champions at those sports. This kid's special.
He really is. I mean, I had a chat with him, and obviously I've known Luke for years because Luke has been helping out behind the scenes at Giants live shows for years. I've known this kid from, he's been a little teenager.
Yeah, little chubby lad.
Yeah, little chubby lad.
Yeah.
That, this kid's pretty big, trying to lift up stuff in the backstage, working his backside off to get things, done. He's a lovely kid. And now, when I spoke to him recently, I mean, I've just sat there and watched his development because obviously he focused on the powerlifting, junior record holder in the IPF, biggest, total as a junior, and the transition to strongman. And you sit there and speak to him, and it's like he's been bred for this.
Yeah, this is his life's work to now already.
I know he's a young man and stuff, but it's the only thing that matters to him. There's literally nothing else. And when the rest of us, we have other things that we focus on, whether it be...
Or have to.
Yeah, family, business, relationships, etc., etc. For him, everything right now is strongman.
Yeah.
Now, how long...
And at 23, it has been already for a decade.
Yeah, he's been doing this...
This is plotting.
Yeah, he's not just kind of, started and got good. There's a lot of 22-year-olds out there that want to be like the next Luke Richardson. This guy's been doing it for a long time. Don't think you just get good that quickly. It takes time. But he is so laser focused on becoming... I spoke to him and I said, what's the ultimate goal? And he just looked me deadpan in the face and he's like, I want to be a 6-time world's strongest man. Yeah. And you sit there and you just nod your head and you go, do you know what?
I don't doubt you.
You can do it. Now, that's not to say it'll happen.
No, I know. Yeah.
There is many, many factors that come into play.
Yeah.
There's many incredible opposition out there. You got like, Kilias Koski, Luke Stoltman, Tom Stoltman. There's countless other amazing athletes. Thor could potentially come back, but I 100% believe that this kid will end up being a World's Strongest Man winner.
Yeah.
He's going to break some world records along the way.
Yeah.
And if he can stay injury free, he may well go down as one of the best of all time.
Yeah. It's picking your battles. It's having an eye on legacy rather than reputation. But I think with the people that he has around him, and as long as the difference can often be once you win, that's the only thing.
Hunger.
Well, not necessarily hunger. I don't think he'll ever be that person that's satisfied. I genuinely think he'll fall into the category, and I think it's what's got him here already, that you actually win one thing and it's not enough. It actually opens up another pore that you've got to fill. There's that void. And I think that is what makes him dangerous.
I think until he wins that 6th title, he probably will stay focused and hungry. But then
it'll be something else. It's just his entire life is going to be like this.
Yeah.
And that's why you have to look at sometimes what the feelings are like. You've had this. I've spoken to Terry. I've spoken to a lot of athletes about this. You stand there on a podium one weekend with a title that you've spent 12 months to obtain, and everyone thinks you get 30 seconds. And then you go back to your hotel room, you put the trophy down, and just
next
empty.
Yeah,
empty.
Yeah.
And then it's providing that. But in terms of when you look at all those greats, when you look at the Zadrunisses, when you look at the Kazmaiers, when you look at the Brian Shaws, when you look at them at a certain age, and when you look at their not necessarily determination or anything like that, but when you look at their sort of momentum. This kid's carrying speed already, and what I loved about his showing at Britain's, he made mistake after mistake after mistake. He wasn't tidy. He was nervous as hell. He's for the first time stood in the arena that he wants to be in, next to all his peers. Probably hyped up internally like you wouldn't believe. Finishes 4th, and if you'd have dialed him in, which is going to happen over time, it'd have been very, very hard to stop. And that's the bit. It's just when it happens, and it is a case of if. When, not if. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's going to be interesting watching his development. He is an exceptionally gifted and hard-working young man, and I just hope he stays injury free.
Yeah,
and
picks his battles, takes the comps where necessary. Looks at okay, what's best for me now to provide the best outcome. It's just especially when you get so big. It's not like it once was, where it's like 16 shows a year and try and do this and try and do that. And then you've got the travel. The travel in itself is the unknown and untested element to this as well. It's going to be interesting to see how he copes. If you've got North America, then he's off to Australia. That's the only that people sometimes don't look at, but that's a killer for the.
There's many factors, and we can talk about that more another day. I mean, as awesome as Luke is, I want to keep it about Europe today. So we're going to move on to the events. Day 1, log for max. Let's pick a winner on this then. Before
Graham Hicks.
You're going for Graham Hicks. I think it's going to be a good battle between Graham and Luke Stoltman. Two incredible log lifters. I think Aaron Page will be up there as well.
Yep.
Those are my top 3. I don't think there's anything particularly groundbreaking about picking those. They're the 3 best log lifters by a long way. And obviously Hixi and Luke have both had a crack at the world record before.
Yes.
So to see a new world record would be awesome. And I think, to be fair, Hixi or Luke are the guys that are capable of. Next event, forward hold. This is a harder one to pick.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Realistically, people will naturally go to Hixi and Luke Stoltman because they'll think of it as a shoulder event, and it is. But forward hold is nothing like a pressing event.
No.
It's completely
you've seen this with people like Paul Smith. You've got arguably at the time the greatest presser in the world in terms of Eddie Hall. Statically one of the strongest human beings on earth. Paul Smith blazes past his time. And
the next thing people
look at, the size of the man.
Yeah, I mean, and Paul fits into the perfect levers for something like this. Yeah. But then you'll get someone like, do you remember Jarni Virtanen?
Yeah.
not even built for this type of event at all. Massively long arms, skinny
Yeah.
shoulders. He was amazing at these type of
Yeah.
events.
It's always interesting when you go back through those sort of archives as well, and even the Champions League, when it's like car batteries and stuff, and there's some unknown sort of Latvian dude that doesn't really sort of look up to much, but he's just stood there, granite faced, and he's hanging on for about 2 minutes.
Well, I know, like, we've spoken off camera before about Lalas, and Lalas, if he's got a weakness in this comp, will be the front hold.
Yeah.
He's not particularly good at them, and it's due to an old injury, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But I've competed against him many times, and he hates it because he just struggles with it. It just goes on him. It's like there's something in his shoulder that just goes. And that guy's a 200 plus, log lifter, one of the best pressers in his prime. And, you look at the ridiculously sized shoulders on him. He's not the best at front hold.
If you've got impingements, if you've got anything in that shoulder complex, which is going to be, you've got to be. The one thing about this, there's so many tips and tricks and ways to maneuver.
And that's the thing. I mean, this is an event I've had competitions where I've done exceptionally well at before, and I've had competitions where I've sucked at it.
Yeah.
And it often depends on how strict the referees are going to be.
Yeah.
Mark Felix does very well on this. And that guy, without necessarily doing it on purpose, cheats as much as he can. And it's not about, cheats maybe the wrong word when it comes to Mark, because he's such an honest guy.
Manipulates his body to an advantage.
When you look at that hammer, he starts tilting it closer and closer to him, and the referee will kind of tell you. And one advice I'd give any athlete, never put that hammer down until the referee says to put it down. Get away with as much as you can until the referee tells you to put it down.
It's amazing when you do all these little things.
You'll get warnings. They'll be like, all right, up, higher, higher. Don't just suddenly drop it, because that few seconds could end up winning you the contest at the end of the day.
Again, this is going to be one of those chaos ones. The likes of people like Parr, again, could all of a sudden be a wild card. But then again, this could be 30 seconds in and bang, do you know what, I've burnt out a lactic purely for the fact I'm just trying to hold it there rather than actually twist, manipulate, work the shoulders, work triceps, try and get your back involved, try and get your chest involved. This by just pulling, pushing, there's much you can do.
I've normally done pretty well at it. And what I try to retract my shoulders as much as possible. I then try and bring my arms up over my chest so that they kind of rest down on the chest.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not the strongest guy in the shoulders, I've always done well at, at the few times I've done it at Brits. I play second to Eddie both times.
Yeah.
I've won it in Champions League comps before. And it's just one of those events you just try and manipulate as much as possible. It's one of the reasons I don't like it as an event, to be honest. It's a bit boring to watch for me. It's a filler event.
Yeah,
but
it's also, though, one of those events, much like the Hercules hold, of where all of a sudden that table gets thrown, it just gets turned on its head.
Yes.
And that's what I quite like about these types of things. It's just that, again, if you're trying, we could pick 3 lots of 3 and we could all still be wrong.
Oh, definitely. It's a really hard event to pick the winner. And
but I'm going to go out on this one and just go Novakov.
Because of that craziness.
Because you don't think he ever knows when he's beat.
Yeah.
He'll hang in there until his rotator cuff's just pulled out.
Honestly, looking at the list, I'd say maybe someone like Felix, if he can manipulate it enough for long enough and doesn't get caught.
Yeah. What's the implement? Do we know?
I'm going to guess it's the hammer.
Yeah.
It's been the hammer in the Giants live shows for a number of years now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to educate a guess and say that the hammer will be the front hold. I think Hixi could do well if he's up for it.
Yeah.
Luke Stoltman.
I'm going with Novakov purely for the fact he's got legs for arms.
Cool. And another guy, I haven't seen him do it, but again, we go back to that mentality, is Luke Richardson.
Yeah.
Definitely could be up there. Anyway, it's going to be a wild card. It's one of those events, like you say, that could throw the competition up, as can the next event, which is the Hercules hold.
Well, yeah, apart from Mark's won it.
So, who's coming second? That's the question.
Do you know what? I wouldn't rule Terry out.
Terry's got very good.
Terry's very, very good at it. Watching him in training, I think if he gets a good grip early in terms of just the good palm placement and settles into it, I did watch him go past 2 minutes in training with full comp weight, and it's just like
2 minutes. 2 minutes is more than the world record, so that would be impressive.
I'll have to look back on the phone, but I can't remember what we've done. So it might have just been past, into the sort of minute 30.
Okay.
But yeah,
the thing with the Hercules hold, it also all depends on kind of how many links have been allowed out. So it can become a lot easier or a lot harder. So it all depends on what kind of setting they've got it on. But notoriously, Mark Felix has almost been unbeatable at those type of events. And actually
broke his own world record, didn't he?
So some of the big favourites that we look at, like a Luke Stoltman, for instance, a Hixi, a Bish, they haven't done that well at it.
No.
So it's another event, maybe like someone like Gav Bilton with those monstrously big hands.
Well, just purely for the size that he takes up in there.
Yeah.
He's kind of more. There's more Bilton than there is kit. So it just could be a case of. Again, it's one of those ones where you've got to have your own sort of style. The other side to this as well, in terms of then how you look at the frame of the person that's in there, Lallis's grip is very good, so it could be okay.
Lallis has never had the best grip.
I think
he's got a good grip.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't put him up to the kind of Felix kind of level on grip.
But when we look at the world, go back to that world teams that we went to. That was exceptional. That barrel hold that he did. They were only just narrowly beaten by Trey Mitchell and Martins. And Martins just had that extra little bit of a. Yeah. He just
team comp's always a bit tricky though to kind of gauge. I've seen. I'm going on personal experience against guys, and I mean, like I said, Lallis is good at everything, and he certainly won't put in a bad performance. But if I was going to pick exceptional events for him, grip wouldn't be one of them.
Yeah,
it's he's got a good grip. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't put him into the Mark Felix kind of realm, or even getting close to challenging. But looking at the lineup, there's a lot of guys he could beat as well. Yeah. So it's a couple of people. Like I don't think Aaron has the best grip. He can prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know what Luke Richardson's grip's like either, but he's a big deadlifter and he's pulled big deadlifts without straps. So I should imagine his grip is strong.
But it's endurance, isn't it? That's the thing. You can have I was speaking to an athlete going into this actually about training for two different things. And that's, I've watched lots of training that people do and they're training for grip strength. Whereas you don't actually need much grip strength for this. You need an endurance grip. Yeah, and this is where, going back to old sports like motocross, you're hanging on to, when you're a kid, you're hanging onto a bike for the best part of 30 minutes.
You bring up, that's, it's a great point. And I've trained for some exceptionally heavy grip holds and then some lighter ones. And they can vary. The results can vary quite dramatically when you kind of chop into those kind of changes.
You just give like an inner tube to someone to twist it, and you watch a guy with an amazing grip, and they've burnt out after like 3 seconds. It's just like you exploit lots of different things. Being able to clamp down is one thing. Hanging on for dear life is a totally different thing.
Make sure those forearms don't pump up too much and you burn out. But I mean, from what we've seen, Terry is decent.
Yeah,
Felix
is Terry in the top 3. Mark to win it.
Could be.
I can't remember where Novakov came in Giants.
I don't think he did anything crazy. Like I said, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, Badger was awesome at it.
Yep. Yeah. I think he thought he had the record, and right up to the point where he said, "I've got the record," and then he just went. Don't think. Just stay in the moment.
I mean, guys that have done exceptionally well at it in comps are guys like Robert Oberst. He's gone over the minute mark. Yep. Badger. Lissis is pretty good. Thor's pretty good. I'm pretty good. And then the rest of the guys, you're looking at somewhere between 30 to 45 seconds.
Well, I think that's that 40-second mark, isn't it? You start seeing the grimace. That's
when it really kicks in. And then if you can go over the minute mark, then you're doing exceptionally well. Yeah. And I probably only Terry and Felix, I reckon, going over the minute on that event. But it is one of those events, sometimes someone just throws up a surprise performance.
Yeah. I'm going to throw power in the mix.
So that's the end of day 1. We're going to move on to day 2. First event, axle deadlifts.
2 people in the running, like for standout. The guy that is probably the most metronomic, dialed-in lifter I think you've ever seen for reps, and he took that mantle over from someone like Mark Felix, and that's Adam Bishop. Anyone that can make every single rep look millimetre perfect, he's just... And now he's powerful as well. So I think he will still set the standard But again, it's just a case of he's going to be outpowered by someone like Luke
I'm not
Richardson.
sure what the weight's going to be. I mean, originally I heard 400 kilos, but I think they've dropped the weight now.
I think you're going to be looking at
360, something like that.
Yeah, about 350, 360, which is brilliant because you're going to get quite a good mix, especially for the fact it's Axel. You know, and as I say, you know, the likes of the Luke Stoltmans are in the mix. Hixi could be flying on this. You know, he might not be in the fitness, you know, shape of his life for this because he's concentrating on other things, but purely for the power you know, this is what I like about the Axles. You can go hard early, and they're the ones you can't creep the bar like an Ollie.
We have a lot of good deadlifters in this lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Page is a 400 plus deadlifter. Felix, Terry, Hixi, Luke Stoltman. What's Luke pulled? About around the 400 mark?
410, I think.
Okay,
410.
Adam Bishop, we know, is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Luke Richardson, some of the numbers he's been putting up in training are just mind-boggling. So Lalas is a good puller. I'm gonna say it's, you know, Bish. I agree with you. He's the man to beat, but I think Luke Richardson could really push him.
Yeah.
And
it's whether he knows. It's whether he's realised. Well, he will have realised. It's just that mental part. I watched him in his first comp go head to head with, I think, with Aaron, and he drew with Aaron his first OSG qualifier for his Europe's, and again we watched him at Britain's, and it's just there's a time to take a knee.
Yeah.
Take the tension out. Just take a fucking breath, you know, and then go. You know, it's learning that give it a couple of seconds to get a quick double at the end, and that takes you 9 to an 11 rather than a 10.
I'm looking forward to seeing how he's going to do, because I mean he's been putting these massive like heavy weights for reps in the gym. People are talking like he can beat the 400 kilo for rep mark. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in contest and seeing if that improvement has really kicked in, because like you say, he's not beating the likes of Bish and, you know, Felix and stuff, you know, those ridiculous pullers.
I think if he just gets his own rhythm and timing to capitalize on what you can do in that time frame, rather than just all in for, you know, if you've got 60.
Do you think he would suit being a heavier deadlifter?
I think definitely that, you know, but it's also a case of at the moment it's just that having one continuous pull doesn't always help.
No.
Yeah, there is a time to take your breath.
to use the time to your advantage.
Yeah, use every bit of it. Not right, because it's horrible to see brilliant people sort of
That's where I was always good. I kind of just use that time to, you know, I might not be the strongest, but I'd make sure I got enough reps.
It's just nous. Yeah, it's just nous. It's knowing, you know.
I like his attitude. Just go for it, and I think he's getting so much stronger. I think he'll do well. I really.
But you still can't knock out Felix, because Felix knows how to lift. You know, even. It's a rep event. It's on an axle. He's still going to be there and thereabouts.
When it comes to deadlifting for reps, you never count out Mark Felix. No. It's simple as that. I mean, Terry's deadlifting's looking, you know, better than it's been in a long time. Aaron Page is a good deadlifter. Hixi. There's a lot of good deadlifters in this lineup.
I think it's just if Bish. I'm going to throw Hixi in the mix, tied with Luke Richardson.
Excellent. You're not putting Felix in the top 3?
No.
Okay, interesting. Right.
It's too tight.
It is. Yes, it is. Next event, the Nickel Stones. New event. Well, it's an old event, actually, but it's new to Strongman.
So similar to Dinny?
Very similar. I'm not sure if they're both the same weight this time, right? The Dinny Stones weigh, you know, at different weights. I'm not sure if these weigh the same. It's picked up. Looks very, very awkward. You know, big cumbersome stones that are going to be whacking into their legs on these small rings. They're going to be nasty and painful on the hands. It's going to be a horrible event. Painful.
Yeah, and again, I think that just goes into the chaos theory events, because you can have the best grip in the world, but you can have massive mitts. Those rings are awful.
That's what
it's being able to actually shut your hand on them.
For Mark Felix.
Yeah.
Mark's hands are so big, he may struggle to get them in these rings.
I think that's going to be literally sat in a couple of fingers.
And that is going to be excruciatingly painful on something like this. It's a real hard one to predict. It's one of those events I'd love to have a go at it, actually.
Yeah.
It's something I would have loved to try. But, you know, you can't go on Farmer's Walk for the winner of this. They're going to struggle to pick up any type of speed at all because these things are going to be whacking into their legs. As soon as they hit the legs, the grip's going to open up. It's just going to be nasty, painful, all the way to the finish line. It's going to be one of those who wants it the most.
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to put people in, like your Luke Richardsons, mainly because I watched him carry a 180-kilo duck walk, stumble with it, and where most people would probably take a nosedive. I don't know how he just seemed to just drag it along with him. He bust himself up doing it, but he didn't stop. The pain level for a lot of people would have probably just done them in. Novakov again, and again the wild card. Well, actually, do you know what? There's two, not necessarily a wild card, but Paro Dwyer, I think, because I think this is just going to be one of those ones where I don't think he's going to have any expectations of himself. He's just going to pick him up and have a go. Yeah. And I think that makes him dangerous because whatever goes on in his head is enough to get him over the line. But this is something where I think, do you know what? If you're in with a sort of bit of a shout, and the guy that sort of picks these sort of things up and has a bit of a motor, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hixi in that sort of top 5 with these. He's strong enough. He's just, as long as he can cope with the pain, which I think he can do, because he's stubborn.
One thing that I worry about Hixi on an event like this, and I know from personal experience, I don't think having big legs is a good thing.
Yeah, it's just going to rattle around and bang into him.
Just going to get whacked and he's not even tall. He's short with big legs. I got a feeling they're just going to whack onto his legs every single step he makes. Yeah. It's going to drive him nuts. And he's so focused on the log, I think he'll pick them up. Sod this. I'm focused on World's Strongest Man. That's my prediction there for Hicks. I might be totally wrong, and I hope I am, but I've got a sneaky suspicion he's not going to enjoy that one. Next event, keg toss.
Terry's very good. Lallis is explosive.
Lallis is unbelievable.
Hixi can launch things into the stratosphere and quickly too. Very, very quickly, as we saw at UK's. When Paul Benton won that, I think he launched... There was 2 or 3 in the bloody air at one time.
I've got to say, looking at this lineup, going on previous performances, Lallis is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Lallis is exceptionally good, well practiced in the movement.
Yeah.
I think Hixi now practices it.
Yeah.
That power was a bit all over the place before. Now, if he's refined that movement, the motor pattern and the skill, he's...
Especially when you look at what Hixi threw last time as well, because those bags, you have to have a good technique for those bags. Yeah. Purely for the fact that if you've got slack in the handle and you're trying to actually throw them rather than trebuchet them, you're not going to get...
They're one of those events that really makes a big difference if you can train them. Now, I've got a set... Well, one of my sponsors made up a set for me, and I started training and got really good at them. But unfortunately, never got to show that in a competition because when I did them in a competition, I'd never really used them much. And then I started working on them and I was getting better and better. And you master that movement. And then you realize how much effort you need to put into each bag because obviously they weigh different weights. What you don't want to do is waste energy on those lighter ones. And you'll find some of the more inexperienced guys will launch the first few bags as high as they can, not realizing that that's going to take out of that explosive power.
Yeah.
That explosive type of power dies very quickly. So it's about managing those first few throws to save the energy for the heavier ones. And that's something I made a mistake in early years. I picked them up and just launch as much as I can. And I think we saw that with Hixi at the UK's, to be honest. Yeah. He was just putting every bit of power into every bag.
Yeah.
Where 60% is enough to get that first bag over. And it's being able to be well practiced on them makes that much easier.
Yeah.
Whereas if you don't have the practice on them, then
it'd be interesting to see how many they have. That for me is I do like it. I love it when you've got 1 to 4 set weight, then 5, 6, 7, 8. They're all heavier.
I think if it's 8, that technique's going to become really important. If it's 5, they've probably got enough power just to muscle them over.
Yeah, and that's where I think that sort of event becomes a little bit of a non-event. Because the boys are so powerful now. And even if technically you're not very good, the amount of guys that are over 6'2", that it's just a lever. And if it's over 4.5 meters, it doesn't actually take much to figure that out.
It just takes one throw that doesn't go over. It might have tremendous height.
Yeah.
It might have tremendous length. But if you don't combine the two and get it over at the perfect point, and you waste all that energy on one throw, panic kicks in, you're rushing, you're making silly mistakes. And it's one of those events that throws it out again. It makes things exciting.
If you've got the guy that's going to rush, this is an event. I've always thought you start slow to finish strong.
Also, we're looking at event 7 here. The whole table will play a big part in this. Who's in what position? How many? How close are people? That pressure of competition. It's an event you can go in training and smash it every time. Suddenly, there's prize money and a title on the line. That little bit of pressure can get to people, and that will kind of, big time come into play.
This is where the likes of Graham, who seems to be just level now. The likes of Lalas, who again, he's just happy to sort of be back, and this is what I do. So I'm good. I'm in with all you guys. It's nice to see some new faces. He's gonna have a ball, and he's good at it anyway. Hixi, Luke Stoltman, Lalas. It's just those little bits where you sort of say, third one just clips, comes back down, and you're already on holding that one. Do you see like the likes of Alexey just going up, and then Bish again, sort of like because they're not. It's how you bounce from those little mistakes. It's can you just be calm and collected.
The amount of times I've seen it hit that top, the barrier, and sometimes it will just creep over. Yeah. Other times it'll just fall back. And,
and almost hit the guy that's ready to go again. It's just like, it's not gone. It's not gone.
The fans are always panicking watching this, especially with the kegs. When you see the kegs coming back down at the athletes, it is visually it's a great event. I think.
And again, at 7, it's that whole. This is either going to make someone get that top 3 or break them, and you're going to be outside the running, and then you're into Atlas Stones.
Yep, last event, Atlas Stones, as you moved on to.
Yep.
The decider of Strongman these days. I don't like that it's become the decider of Strongman. I like Strongman when it was a bit more varied on that last event. I think the Atlas Stones is a great event, but I don't think it needs to be in every single heat.
And that same format, because I did love, go back to the likes of the Jesse Marundis when it was up to shoulder, running along, bump, plunk it up. And you used to see the sort of stone far off into the distance, and it was dramatic. Whereas now, plonk, 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 plonk.
Do you remember Fortissimus when they did the kind of the natural stones there?
Yeah, with Derek Poundstone loading. Yeah, with a sear stone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was cool. It's just seeing something a little bit different.
Yeah, because you're having to fight. There's so much that's going on. You're learning as you're, the whole thing's an evolution of a lift. Yeah. And it's no discredit because you have a man at the moment, which is, he is messy of stones, and that is Tom Stoltman. There isn't, even Thor on a good day is still behind Tom Stoltman where he goes on these giant runs. Not by much, because the one thing with Thor is you never saw.
I have a bit of a theory on that, but right now Tom is the man on stones, and he's going for the world record. Thor
never had to try. He'd already won,
and this is the only thing when we talk. I mean, right now you can't argue Tom's the best at the stones. Yeah. But, we're going to talk about 3 guys that aren't even in this competition.
Yeah,
but Tom, Brian Shaw, and Thor are arguably the best 3 at stones in the world. Brian and Thor got to that point where they got really good at stones, and then they just always won stones, and they stopped training them.
Yeah.
And then Tom came along and sort of surpassed them. Yeah. I'd love, like I've mentioned before, I'd love to see the 3 of them going head-to-head, really training for them. But anyway, we're moving away from what we should be. We got to focus on the stones for this competition.
Yeah, I think which we say it's a standard setup, so it's going to be sort of like up to 180,
like 120 to 180, something like that. Normal loads. It's not the hardest set of stones in the world these days. Most of these,
everyone knows the platforms.
Everyone knows the platforms. It's going to be a pretty quick race, to be honest.
Yeah,
lots of good stone lifters. Bish is great. Luke is great. Hixi's great. Terry, Felix, Lalas, Novakov, they're all well practiced on the stones. I know Luke Richardson trains on them. He's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
There's not one guy there that isn't capable of finishing this stone run. Yeah. What it comes down to, in my opinion, is positioning. Yeah. When you go into that Atlas Stone event, what position are you in? Are you fighting for a podium finish? Are you fighting for that top 5? The guys on the lower end, they'll be thinking, I'm glad this 8 event competition is nearly over. My body's battered.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any more prize money for moving up on this position. I just want to save myself now for the next show. The guys that are fighting for those positions will still be motivated. They'll still be working hard, and they'll want to put in a good performance. And that's the way stones work.
Yeah, and that's the only thing about having this event as the finale each time as well is it just leaves it as a bit of a dead rubber for a lot of it. Especially if you're, I know, we've spoken about this before. It's not necessarily you're paired against, but it's just a case of.
Well, you asked me the other day. You asked me what it's like, kind of, when I was head to head with, say, Tom Stoltman.
Tom Stoltman, yeah.
And actually, I mean, it's a good question because some people will kind of wonder, but I've been unlucky enough to go against some of the best stone runs in history, like Tom Stoltman breaking world record against me. I was the poor bugger against Harold Haugen at World's Strongest Man, where I was still loading the third stone and he'd done a vertical jump onto the last platform after loading it in a world record time. And there's me just plodding along. Yeah. But when someone's that far ahead of you, it doesn't actually distract me.
Yeah.
The distraction comes when you're head-to-head.
Virtually
close to
eyeball, yeah.
Like, say, me and Mark Felix head-to-head, and he's starting to kind of panic and look over. Poundstone against Pudzianowski, 2009 World's Strongest Man. You start kind of looking at what your opponent's doing. When it's close like that, that's when the mistakes make. When someone is so much better, like Tom Stoltman against me at the Brits, for instance, I know he's ahead of me.
Yeah, just let him do his thing. You concentrate on
just let him do his thing. I focus on mine. And actually, sometimes you end up doing quite a good run because... Yeah. He's gone so fast and you think you're going slowly, and then you look at the time and like, actually, that was all right. It was decent. And you've got to focus on your own performance. So that's something, it's easier to do when someone's that much better. It's harder to do when you're fighting for that podium spot or that winner spot and you're head-to-head with the guy that's...
But is that easier to do because of, a little bit of experience now? But if you are a younger or less experienced athlete where you feel like you should be performing, and this guy's 3 stones ahead.
I mean, I've been in that the other end of that position. I've been head to head with someone on the yoke before, where I've finished in like 10 seconds, and the next guy's taking a minute or so.
Yeah,
I've kind of experienced both ends of that experience, and I guess being more experienced for me, when someone's that much better, I don't let it affect me. I've learnt that I've got to focus on my performance. And it's something I tell all my guys that I train, and I'll try and get it into anyone's head.
It's the one thing you can control, nothing else.
Exactly. If you letting someone else's performance dictate your performance, especially in a negative way, then you don't want things affecting you in a negative manner.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not a big issue. But maybe for a youngster, they may get that kind of pressure. Oh God, I'm not very good. I'm not performing in front of this. And in reality, no one thinks that.
No.
Everyone's watching the other guy. No one's even looking at you. It's as simple as that.
It's just your run.
Yeah, when someone's doing something that impressive, no one's watching you. Don't worry about it. Just mind your own business. Get on with it.
Smile and wave at the camera at the end.
Usually, the guy that's winning is nice enough to hang around and kind of
cheer you up,
pat on the back.
Which we do see, which is always a good thing.
We love about Strongman.
Yeah,
but I think the stones is going to come down to who's fighting for the podium, who's fighting for those positions. And quite honestly, the winner could be Adam Bishop, it could be Luke Stoltman, it could be Luke Richardson, Lalas. They're all within fraction of a second of each other.
Yeah.
Stones are one of those. When I won the North American Championships a few years back, I was fighting for top position. I put in a great performance. I've had other stone performances where I'm down the table, and you're just like, today's not so important. I'm not going to put as much effort in. So it will come down to that mentality. Right, we've gone through everyone. We've gone through all the events. Last thing to do is a prediction. I want your top 3 for this contest.
I'm not going to go with the formulaic because it makes sense sort of prediction because everyone does it. I'm going to go, well, it's a little bit ahead, a little bit of heart. A little bit ahead says someone like a Luke Stoltman should be winning this because he's almost sweet spotted his career now. He's got the strength up. He's dialed in on events. He's got brilliant amount of experience. He's a calm, relaxed guy that knows that this is where he belongs. Get your titles. Start putting some trophies on the shelf. He's built a legacy anyway for just being, one of the great characters in the sport and an amazingly good professional. But I think that would go a long way. Second place. This is where it gets.
I mean, you say that, and I'm a big, both Tom and Luke Stoltman fan. I think they're both incredible athletes. So pleased to see them doing well. As it stands, other than Scotland's Strongest Man, neither of them have won a major title.
No, and it's, you saw the showing in terms of what is he in Dubai? He came second,
and that was a great lineup. Second place, at second and third for both of them.
But this is what I mean. This is the bit now where it's a case of I think once that is actually. But this is where it matters now. It's okay. Get these in the bank. It's always nice to have your name engraved on something because that takes it out of everyone's gossip.
Yeah, no one will take it away from you then.
Yeah. Once your name is etched in pewter, then you've done a good job in sport. because it's there on a board for history. And I just think it's about time. It's about time.
I agree.
This is where it gets really complex now, because I think just a point will be what separates it. And then from that second, I think all the way through to sixth, I don't think there'd be hardly anything in it between a number of athletes, including the likes of Lallas, including the likes of Novakov, Bishop, Luke Richardson. But what I will do is I'll nail my colours to the mast saying, do you know what? He's going to have learned from his previous competition. He will have worked his arse off to be as dialed in as he can do. He's going to still make mistakes, but his pure grit, power will get him through, and that will be Luke Richardson. And I think this will be the first time people will now look at, once this is done over a couple of days, and look at every single event where you see like peaks, troughs, peaks, troughs, peaks. You're just going to watch someone that goes about his business different to everyone else. And I think this will be the one. By the time this airs at Christmas, everyone's going to sit there that knows a little bit about the sport and just go, oh, I've not seen that before. So I think this will be the maker. He may not win the title. There might still be a little bit of a flaw, but this will be the one where everyone goes, oh, hang on a second. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. Third place, as I say, could be absolutely anyone. I'm going purely for the romantic side of things. It could have been a Lallas or something like that. It could have been a Novakov. It could have been a Bishop. And I know that he's got a few sort of like weaker events. But I'm saying on all the wildcard events, he just has the perfect run. He smiles as he goes across the line, nicks it by half a point on something like a hold. Paraguay gets himself a place at Worlds, because I just love to see him there. I'm realistic in terms of what who you line up against, and I know that you've got to have some but never know. Luck of the Irish and all that.
You never know, mate. That's what the great thing about sport is. We do not know the answer. Yeah. I mean, I've got my opinions. I think both Lukes, they're going to be very, very hard to beat. I really think there's going to be. I think guys like Lallas and Bish, both very, very consistent performers.
Graham.
Hixi. I'm going to predict that Hixi focuses on the log, and then he's like, sod this, I'm going to World's Strongest Man. I need to train on that.
Yeah.
That's my prediction with Hixi. Yeah. So based on that, I'm not putting Hixi in my top three. Yeah. Only based on that reason.
Yeah,
I think
thing.
He's going to focus on World's Strongest Man and focus on the log record. Luke Stoltman, like we said, I think it's about time he wins a major title, and I think he's looking great. He's looking really good. I think he's going to be hard to beat, and I'd love to see an informed Lallas come into this. Roll back the years. Let's see prime Lallas from 2012, 2013.
Yeah, kick ass.
Forming on everything. I think if you're entering it, do it. Let's see him get back to World's Strongest Man. So I'm going to go. Yeah, that's going to be sort of my what. I'm going to Luke Stoltman for the win. I think Luke Richardson second, same as you. Yeah. And then I think a battle between Bish and Lallas for third spot.
Yeah.
Guys, let us know your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be in the top three? Do you think anyone's going to break any world records? Let me know if you've enjoyed us having Marcus on the show. It's been great to chat to you, buddy.
No worries, man.
You're keeping busy. We're going to see you competing again, or is it focus on Team Affinity now?
Work is priority number one. Made a major move last year, 150 miles away from where I once was, to solely focus on the business. I've had to set some short-term goals just to fill the void. So
keep training, keep working.
Yeah, you're going to see me in a singlet come the start of 2021. I'm going to be entering into a few M1.
Chasing some Masters powerlifting records.
Yeah, it's just a good way to sort of, keep myself home, keep myself a bit honest. But one thing that sort of has come from this sort of training as well, I think once I'm afforded a little bit of a bit of a good run, you never know. You never know. So, it's once you can get back to events, because that's your bread and butter really for actually doing the job, is training the events. When you get back to events, then I make my mind up. But at the moment, a little bit of powerlifting, so I've got to see if my back bends.
It's always good fun, mate. Just very quickly, where can people find you if they want to find more of Marcus?
On Instagram at Team Affinity, And then the rest of it is iamthecaveman.com. You'll see that ugly mug, not this ugly mug. And then, I'll be here, there, and everywhere. I love the sport, as you know. And, it's nice to be back on the road training.
We'll see what the results are like this weekend, and we may get you back on for an analysis video and see if we can get our predictions right. Guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Go follow Marcus, and we will catch you guys next time. Take care.